Hey y'all, hope y'all are enjoying your weekend so far. Y'all are probably wondering why we aren't out in the field right now like we usually are for our videos. If it weren't for the fact that today's topic is actually on the race to the Dan, we probably would be. But it's such a broad subject, ranging from all kinds of things. It's actually kind of hard for me to be in multiple places at one time. Or I could spend the next day or two driving to each significant point or place, but gas prices and time, and it's just kind of hard to do all that, with everything combined. Um, now for those that don't know, y'all are probably wondering what this Race of the Dan event is, right? Well, the Race of the Dan is more than just one event. For those that may want to know, it was actually a series of events that occurred starting with the Patriot victory at the Battle of Cowpens and ended once the last man of the Patriot Army crossed the Dan River, with Cornwallis hot on their heels. Cornwallis and the British were unable to, cross, obviously, as they had arrived too late and had no boats to use. I don't want to go too crazy with this video, as I'll probably be here for hours and hours, and explaining every detail and everything that influenced this period of time. So a basic general overview of events that took place during the Race of the Dan will be sufficient. To start, the Race of the Dan officially started when the Patriots dealt a shocking blow to the British at the Battle of Cowpens, which was on January 17th, 1781. At the end of the battle, the Patriot General Daniel Morgan had approximately 600 British soldiers as prisoners. Daniel Morgan knew that he had to join up with Nathaniel Greene because not only had he, soundly defeated the British, but he also had British prisoners. As mentioned before, the Race of the Dan was not a specific event, but it was considered more as a series of events that happened, a time frame of events after the British defeat at Cowpens on January 17th of 1781 to the evening of February 14th or 15th of 1781, when the last few Patriot troops crossed the Dan River. Um, the British were only hours behind, if that. Some of the notable crossings and events that occurred go as followed. The first significant event was the burning of the baggage. For those that may or may not know, the burning of the baggage took place at Ramser's Mill. And interestingly enough, Ramser's Mill is also where the Battle of Ramser's Mill took place, which was a British or like a Patriot militia against the Loyalists. Technically, it's the British's version of a militia. That took place there, and then of course you also have the burning of the baggage event. Now the burning of the baggage event was when um, the British were pursuing the Patriot army, and this whole thing was well underway. And of course, the Patriots were trying to find ways to slow down the British and prevent them from catching up to them. Because time is of the essence, and the only way that they were going to be able to get away without having to actually, conduct a full engagement, military action, there was by trying to do what they can to slow down the British. But of course, more specifically, this whole burning of the baggage event was when Cornwallis realized that he wasn't going to actually catch up to, the Patriots, if he didn't, burn some of the baggage and kind of lighten his load. So he kind of had to do what he had to do so he could, be a little bit faster and do what he can to just get moving faster. So that was on January 27th of 1781. Now, the Battle of Cowan's Ford, that is a little bit more further to the east from Ramser's Mill, right where the Reinhardt cabin is. That happened on February 1st. Um, that was like a little skirmish to where that they had at that was that happened right at that particular ford. Now there's actually a nuclear power station dam there, I guess, and all that sorts. And sadly enough, it was also the during that particular engagement or skirmish is actually when the Patriot militia general William Lee Davidson actually died there, and that was on February 1st. Anyways, the next step is Terrence Tavern, which is just another small skirmish, on February 1st. It really wasn't that too far away. I guess it's all kind of, whatever you think, large distances or small distance. But then the next significant stop was in Salisbury. Both armies walked through what is now downtown Salisbury and stuff. And if you go to Salisbury now, you'll see that the whole wide, how wide the road is. That's from my understanding is that the road was pretty much like that. But of course, the British will remain in Salisbury for about 2 days. And Nathaniel Greene arrives at Steele's Tavern and gets money from a woman, I guess, named Mrs. Elizabeth Maxwell Steele, who was the tavern owner, and writes on the, of course, he writes on the back of a King George's picture, "Oh George, hide thy face and mourn," and then for some reason, I guess, turns the picture to face the wall. A little interesting to me. But anyways, Tarleton then chases Daniel Morgan and Greene. At that point, they proceed to cross the Yadkin River, leaving Tarleton on the other side of said river, waiting for about 2 days for the water to recede. Then again gets on his way. General Cornwallis starts to head to Shallow Ford to cross the Yadkin River and then stops at the Deep River. Greene is obviously getting closer at this point to his logistical support, whereas Cornwallis is going, the opposite direction with his. I guess that's kind of great for the Patriots at this point. But 4 days later, and after Greene was able to cross the Deep River, Greene and Morgan decide to meet up at Guilford Courthouse. At which point Daniel Morgan leaves because of his poor health, and then turns his command over to the person named Colonel Otis Williams. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. But anyways, the orders that were given to Williams are plain and simple. Do what you can to delay and harass and misdirect and bother Cornwallis and his army. In other words, cause a ruckus and just stir the pot, and just get them to slow down. This, of course, is to make the front of the British column think that they are dealing with the rear of the Patriot force. This is, of course, not the case. This is just, some people that are staying back to stir the pot and slow down the British. So Nathaniel Greene is now headed in the direction of the Dan River, while on February 8th, Williams is leading General Cornwallis northwest and away from Greene. All while Nathaniel Greene, of course, the main Patriot force, is really actually headed for Boyd's and Irwin's ferries, the crossings, in sorts. Cornwallis then attempts to draw Greene and Williams out by moving further northwest, which they, of course, ignore. Williams' pickets are patrolling the rear and making it look like that they are rear guards of the main Patriot force and are moving at a slow pace. This, of course, is allowing Greene to move faster as it is allowing him to, quote, outpace the British, which is directly preventing a full-scale engagement. Um, you know, so anyways, Williams, of course, is not allowed to stop for more than approximately maybe 6 hours every night. And to confuse the British, as he puts half of his force on guard duty to fool them into thinking that it is the rear of the main force, which, of course, again, it's not. This is just a contingent of men, just a contingent of men of sorts, to kind of, slow the British down. Because of the fast pace, the ruse is allowed to be maintained, while Greene is attempting to reach the Dan River without having to worry about again a full-scale engagement. General Cornwallis then reaches Salem, which is now present-day Winston-Salem. It's about 25 miles, maybe to the west of General Greene's position. Tarleton then comes in contact with some of the Patriot rear guard and was beaten back. Believing that Nathaniel Greene had crossed, Williams decides to change his direction yet again with General Cornwallis in pursuit and heads in the direction of Irwin's Ferry. The British's advanced units ended up coming within volley range of Williams, but of course no exchange was ever made. I guess. And on February 14th, General Greene has managed to cross the Dan River and then sends a letter to Williams. All our troops are over and the stage is cleared. I'm ready to receive you and give you a hearty welcome. And of course, when it was read to Williams' men, shouts and yells of huzzah, yay, yay, party, huzzah, whatever. They then, went to, of course, those cheers were heard by, I guess my understanding is that those cheers were heard by the British advanced guard. Whatever. Anyway, so throughout that evening, Williams proceeds to make his way to the ferry and crosses. By the end of the day, on the 15th, all of Williams' men had been able to cross the Dan River. And of course, an hour later, Cornwallis' force arrives at the Dan River and, of course, is stuck on the other side of where the Patriots are with no boats or any way to take them across to the other side. And sees the Patriot force on the other side just waving their hands and saying, hey, you didn't make it over. Anyways, Tarleton is said to have complimented his adversary, I guess, and saying something along the lines that the Americans had calculated everything great during their march from the Catawba River, or from the Catawba to Virginia, and it was designed smartly and precisely executed, I guess. The Dan, and then of course, the next part comes to the Dan River crossing. One notable thing that I'll actually say at this point is that General Greene had been aware for a while that at some point he would have to cross the Dan River to plan for this. So he had sent out scouts as well in advance to go find as many boats as possible to ensure a speedy crossing.